Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Holistic Actress Show. Today, I have a special guest from Texas, which I'm very excited about his presence today because it was a little weird the way we met and the way we start having conversations about relationships and dating and more. But I really wanted him today because I think it's an amazing, incredible mind, a business owner that I really, really appreciate just by following his work on Instagram. I love the way he thinks. And so today I want to introduce you to a creative and a thinker that always asks why. His creative outlet is with his business, and his thinking outlet is with our podcast, Beyond the Craft. Sorry for my introduction. Adrian Garcia, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's pretty simple. My introduction, a creative thinker, and I mean, a creative is based on opinion, but I think of myself as a creative. I like to create stuff, and I like to think a lot. So it's pretty straightforward, yeah.
It's a
But
beautiful
thank you for having
introduction.
me. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. It's a beautiful introduction. It's just that I'm Italian. So sometimes my way of
I
speaking is not,
totally understand all of it.
it's not the best. But I thought that it was a beautifully written. Yeah, and I can recognize that you are a creative, like it's an essence that spreads around even just by Instagram.
Yeah.
And I love to have conversations with men who love to think and confront. Also, because the topic of today, it's very much around the topic of men and women and confrontation and relationships and egos, bonds and challenges that we all go when we start dating or we are in relationships, or maybe sometimes it's even just in business, even just like
Hmm.
in every single area of society. But before starting, I just want to mention that I don't know you. I never met you physically. We met online. And I love that we created this connection. And I also
Hmm.
want to remind people that, like, real life, that a lot of people say, internet is not real life.
Right.
Internet is bullshit. But
Right.
it's not true. Like, it's not true because we do connect. I
Yeah.
mean, in the past 3 years, I built a community online, and I ended up meeting people that I met online in real person. I think it's wonderful.
Right.
What do you think about that? Because I know that you work also a lot online.
Online, yeah, I think I don't think people think of it in this way, but people are talking to themselves online. A lot of people that are they show what they're leading with. Uh, I think people often saw my work and they were like, "You, there's not much of you." At before this was like a couple years ago. There's not much of you, you know, pictures of you or anything. And I was like, "No, I like my value my business and I lead with my business, and that's really all that matters. It's not like this facade and this surface level of like, hey, like look at me, this is me." Now it's kind of changed a little bit. I'm more like personality, showing more of that, kind of like coming out of the shell. But as far as online, it's like you take it with a grain of salt, right? Not everyone is the way they are in person, which is cool. I mean, I think there's a good balance of like they're either like there's fake people online or there's like actual like authentic people. And I think with me online, it's either I'm super serious and super like business focused, or I'm really like just being sarcastic and having fun. So it's like don't judge me by like what I'm saying online, really, but like once you kind of meet me in person or just have a conversation with me, then you'll understand where like everything switches gears all the time. It's either like very, very like business focused, or it's just like I'm on the other end of the spectrum, just like joking and being sarcastic and letting my mind wander about like funny stuff. But yeah, I mean, relationships online, like you gotta take the you gotta take it with a grain of salt. So you can't like totally think you know someone by what they share online,
Yeah.
and you can't really say that they're completely fake, because there are some people that like I know of clients that I work with that are like completely the same.
Hmm.
That people are like, oh my gosh, they're so fake, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're actually the same person that you see them online. There's that like true person. So there's no right or wrong way, I feel
Uh,
like, in that.
yeah, I understand what you mean. I mean, in acting, we talk a lot about public personas, and
Hmm.
we talk about these three different elements of the persona, which is like the public persona and the
Right.
vulnerability, that it's called like the need. Everybody has a different need, like need to be seen, need to be heard, need to be safe, need like many different kind of needs. And so, and then we have tragic flows, which is not important and relevant right now, but the way we show up in the world is kind of like, I
Right.
need to cover my vulnerability, I need to cover my
Right.
internal unfulfilled need. And the real danger on picking a public persona, because I believe that everybody has a public persona,
Hmm.
is that picking the wrong one. Like many people
Right.
choose something for themselves to cover vulnerability because we cannot walk in our needs all of the time. Somebody that is totally away from the reality of who they are, because they're just
Right.
pretending somehow to be
Well, they
something.
think of it, yeah.
And
They
sometimes
think of
they do that to impress.
Yeah. They create the person that they think everyone else will like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like they look at their like what's around them and the people around them, and they create this person of like what they think they will like, what they think their friends or their so-called friends will like, I think. So people create that person and then they lose themselves, right? They lose their true self of like who they are, because they rather create a person as opposed to like showing like being vulnerable and showing their true self, I
Hmm.
think.
And also the thing is like, this is for the first stage of you know meeting somebody new, or like it's okay because you can fake it until you make
Hmm.
it, but then
Right.
reality comes. Like so in dating, for example, in the online dating world, in my experience, what has been uh, delusional, it's been always that somebody was interested on my public persona and not what was behind the public
Hmm.
persona. And
Right.
I was unconsciously attracted by, oh, look at this guy, you know, uh, their public persona. And
Right.
so once that we met in real life, then we realized none of one was anything close to that public persona. That's especially for dating apps, more
Right.
than Instagram and stuff. And so it's all about ego. Like that's my
Mhm.
ego, that's how I want to be perceived. That's how
Right.
my fear, that my inner child fear wants to show the world, like I'm the cool girl, I'm the Italian girl, I'm the
Yeah.
independent girl, and then maybe I end up to be insecure and
Yeah.
broke, and
Yeah.
all of this stuff.
Yeah. Well,
So
people lead with that. People lead with their values. People are showing what they value in themselves, but then also what they value in other people, or other people to appreciate, right? So say I had this conversation with one of my friends. I'll refer to them as girlfriends, right? Like just friends of mine. I had this conversation with her, and she says, "Adrian, why does everyone like kind of just want me for my body?" And I was like, "Well, look at what you're putting out there. Like, it's kind of easy. Like, this is what you're leading with. You're leading with those values, and then you're complaining that only men are seeing those values. what do you want to lead with, or what do you want men to appreciate? You want them to appreciate, I don't know, your mind, your caring, you know, your personality. It's like, well, you got to show that. You have to lead with that. You can't lead with all this, like this, just showing your body, because you will attract those type of men. You're attracting what you put out,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
attracting what you put out. So I had that conversation with her, and she was like, okay, yeah, I actually see that. And you can see a lot of, like, just online, even, I mean, I think even in online dating, you can really see the template person, right? The basic type of person. Oh, I want to have, like, take me out for a drink, or, like, you know, like, there's always the template person. And even with the guys, the same thing.
Hmm.
But it's really kind of setting yourself apart from, like because they place everyone in buckets. So how do you get placed in your own bucket? I think in dating, to where when I was online like that, it was really the things I was saying, because you really can't. A lot of the time, people will meet me or just see me online, and they're like, "Oh, like I didn't know I'm an onion. There's more to me than what you just see online." And it people often are like, "Hey, you're actually, like, kind of cooler than I thought," or, like, "You're not just like this guy online." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you
Good.
can't, like, and just like I can't judge people like that. I can't judge by what they're seeing online. But when I see people online, it's really like, what are they communicating? You know, even with dating, it's like, what is she communicating? Is she communicating online that, you know, more business stuff, more like psychological stuff, how the mind works, or is she just communicating in, like, bikini photos and travel?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's showing that she values that, which is cool. Like, everyone values, like, taking care of their body and, like, experiencing new things. But is that the only thing? Is that the only substance you have to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you
So how
care?
do you?
What do you
What's
care
that?
about? What do you care about?
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. I think women shown their most attraction to me, um, by when I led with business stuff, like when I led with how much I loved my work. And a lot of people were attracted to that about me, is that they love how much I love my work. And it wasn't like a thing that I came and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should put on this, like, persona of, like, I love my work. And it's like, no, I actually love my work. I actually found what I love to do, and I do it. And then I think they're attracted to me, like, I guess just as a person, but I think they're most attracted to that purpose that I found in my work. And I think that's what a lot of people want. They want to find that purpose. I know people that are, oh my God, like 20 years older than me, that are still looking for their purpose. So I think that's where I have found where women are most attracted to me, is whenever I'm communicating and leading with my purpose, and then they feel enriched and they feel inspired, and they're like, damn, like, I like this guy, you know? Like,
Yeah.
even if it's a personal like, or it's just like as a friend like, it's like they just are attracted to it. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I feel like I found what I believe everyone should find, is their purpose.
Absolutely. And sometimes people don't get they're not that lucky to get into what I
Hmm.
love in an early age or in an early stage of life. So it can be very frustrating. And he has a lot of repercussions of many other areas of life. Like, for example, relationships and love is a big, big, big part of where those kind of things can have repercussions. Many women are still, I mean, I don't want to talk about sexism necessarily, but I
Hmm.
do know what does it mean to live in a culture that it's very that comes from sexism, from internalized sexism. So women sometimes they don't even know who they are. They've never been taught to follow their dreams, to follow their passion,
Right.
to follow
Right.
satisfaction. They have been taught for a long, long time to find the right party for you, get married, have kids, and
Hmm.
then you'll figure that out. So, and I know many men today feel also a little annoyed by women approaching them for their money, for their work. It's
Hmm.
really difficult to
Navigate.
Yeah, to navigate those things, because you maybe are super successful, satisfied, and women can approach you with the intent of
Mhm.
okay, let me feel safe here, let me settle with this guy. Or on the other
Mhm.
side, it can be really difficult also to dealing with women that are still um processing a lot
Mhm.
of internalized sexism, that can be hard for us to find our own way and to settle. Maybe in America it's a little bit different. I talk for as an
Mhm.
Italian woman, because I think that women in America are more aggressive. But
I could agree.
yeah, absolutely. So like I would love to know. I would love to talk about ego with you, like ego in
Mhm.
relationships, and especially I remember a couple maybe weeks ago. I don't remember, maybe 1 month ago. I published a post where I was speaking about my frustration. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be single now because again, I'm done. I'm tired. Like I'm
Mhm.
tired of having to deal always with those dynamics with men on and I published a video on weak and strong men. Um, and I think, and I love the way you answer me, and love the way you wanted to get into this conversation, because I know that for many women is frustrating to being okay with the first stages, and then when we really have to get into this confrontational
Mhm.
dynamic with a man, and being vulnerable, basically both sides, and letting the other person getting off the public persona, both of us, and be real and be raw and feeling safe and confront and all of this stuff. It's very hard, and I speak as a woman because I do the work. I do the work on myself, the inner child work, the trauma work, the mindset work. I know you do a lot of work too, and that's why I wanted to talk with you. But many men don't. Many men, they have this big ego. This big ego. I'm the man. I provide for
Right.
things. Safety is money.
Right.
I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. You're just weak. There is
Mhm.
a lot of this. There's still a lot of this mentality. It's very hard to find a man who can really able to hold you for who you are and showing who they really are. So what do you think about this? My frustration. Like,
Mhm.
let's talk about my frustration. Maybe can be more
No, I get it. I made this sarcastic remark. I make this sarcastic remark to my friends. I'm like, I'm just going gay. I'm going gay. Like I'm tired of like dealing with like the intrinsicies of like women and just like trying to understand it all. And but I just make that sarcastic remark. I'm like, I'm going gay. But um it's quite interesting. I mean, the idea of like I study it a lot with I just think about the only time I look back at my past is just to learn from it and to understand the why as to why I tell this to like everyone I talk to that I think I dated very amazing women. It didn't work out after all, but and we grew apart from each other, but I think I learned a lot from them. I took a lot from them. There's things that I do today as like a man, and other people look at that and they're like, "Wow, you did that or you did this," or and I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of like took that from like an ex-girlfriend of mine." And she kind of like put like molded me to be this type of man that like looks out for this or looks out for that. So I'm proud of things that I've borrowed or just kind of, or I'm proud of things ex-girlfriends have influenced me on. There are things ex-girlfriends have just like taught me a lot about. I talk often about I when I speak with friends of mine. Um, I talk often about one of my longest relationships. It was like a 7-year relationship, and I was trying to understand why I didn't feel taken care of in that relationship. But I think it was going back to like um, how she was raised by her parents and the influence they had on her, which they're amazing people as well. Um, I love them a lot. But her mom was raised, I believed, without a father, like like a father figure, really. I think a mother figure also. I don't remember the specifics on it, but like she was raised by like friends of hers, moms, I believe. So she had a lot of female influence. She had to pay her mother, my ex-girlfriend's mother, had to pave her way, be an alpha woman, take care of things, get shit done, for lack of better words. And then when I and all that happened, and she created success for herself, created sustainability for her family, amazing. And when I started dating her daughter, I was understanding her daughter had influence from her mother, which was like more of an alpha woman because she had to actually survive to be an alpha woman like that. That was needed. But the girl I was dating was not going through those same scenarios. So she was influenced by her mother to be this type of woman, which is great. But then she was a woman that didn't necessarily need to be an alpha type mentality or a lead type mentality. And then like I come in from like a very traditional background where my dad was not, I would consider my dad the alpha. I would consider my dad, I was raised in a way where, you know, I my dad communicated to me is like, if the family fails, it's my fault. It's my dad's fault.
Like
It's
more
no one else's
patriarchal.
fault. It's all accountability. It's all my dad's fault.
Mm.
So, if things were behind or this and that, it's his fault. If the last word is you, then also you are you take the accountability for anything that happens, right? So it's having that accountability and having that, I don't think my dad had much of a like an ego where it's like, oh, it's my way or the highway kind of thing. There might have been some, but I think it was a healthy balance of like he had to like, to whom much is asked of, much is expected also. But I take that to go back to, um, I was raised like that. So then in the relationship with this girl that I was with for 7 years, um, I come from very traditional where I'm like leading, and to her, it's like we are just kind of competing in a way. And I
Yeah.
was like, and now when I look at it, I'm like, and the men that I'm hearing from even just women in Austin, I'm hearing that women they want a man to lead, they want an alpha man, they want a man to make decisions, but you that man does not want to compete with you to be an alpha. Who's going to be the alpha today?
Yeah.
That man wants a partner.
Yeah.
That man wants a team member. He doesn't want to compete with you. And we've created this competition aspect of like, I think in modern society we've created this competition aspect where it's like, oh well, who's above who. Well, it's like at the end of the day, like I'm comfortable like if you make the decisions, but like I don't care.
Mhm.
But if you want me to be a man, I'll be a man. I will make the decisions. I will like hold accountability on myself and all this stuff. But I just learned a lot from that relationship. She and I started to figure out later that it was like, man, that was the thing. Is like she was influenced by her mother, which was like an alpha woman, a very loving, respectful alpha woman. But then she was bringing it into our relationship, and I was like, well, what do you want me to be? Do you want me to give all the decisions to you and you kind of make it, or do you want me to do it? It was very confusing.
Yeah.
And then the next relationship I got in after that, I I took away all that I thought women wanted the equality, right? They wanted the equality. So okay, so then I get into a relationship and I see this. Okay, let me give her all the options. Like let me give her all the whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. Okay, I'm cool with that. But in reality, she wanted me to make decisions. This woman wanted me to make decisions. And I was like, I didn't want to make any decisions. I had like made all these decisions and I thought it was wrong to act this way. So I'm like,
Oh my
no,
God.
let me walk in. So I lost all this alpha like type mentality
Yeah.
that I was raised by. And so I'm like, here, you make all the decisions. Like here. Like I want to empower you to like do all this stuff that I think women want to do now.
Mm.
And so I'm empowering. And then it was frustrating for her and she hated it. So I was like, I thought y'all wanted this. And then I get to Austin and I get out of that relationship. And then I start listening to friends of mine. I start meeting people, and I'm just like, what the heck? Y'all want the type of guy that I like left a long time ago, that I was raised to be, but I left because I was like so confused with what do women want nowadays, you
Right.
know? But when you talk about ego, when you talk about the big thing on ego is really the self-awareness.
Mhm.
Self-awareness, because I mean, of course, like I'm not like I wouldn't. I think I'm a healthy type of ego. I'm enough confidence to like get by and believe in something, but I have enough self awareness to where I try to just be humble with it. You know, so it's like it's having the self awareness to point out your wrongs, to point out your flaws, and also making sure you're not delusional. I think people use delusion in a bad way
Mhm.
a lot of the time, which is normal, but they can also use it in a good way. I talk about delusional confidence. You know, you got to be so confident in something that you believe in that it seems delusional until it's actually possible. But as far as like the bad part of delusion, that's where the ego kind of captures that, and you start to be delusional about your beliefs and your thoughts, and then it becomes hurting the other person, you know,
Yeah.
hurting your partner. If you're self-aware, if you have a you know, great level of self-awareness, you'll realize that you're hurting your partner, you know, and then how do you fix it? How do you solve it? You know?
Yeah. I think that really applies for both of the sides, for women
Hmm.
and men. And I do agree. It's a question of self-awareness. I mean, self-awareness is everything. And it's very hard work because there is ego also on pretending to know everything. But many
Right.
times the process is still going and we're still learning a lot about ourselves. And self-awareness, it's all about history. Like if we don't know about our history, if we don't understand why we have been raised in a certain way, why we're thinking in a certain way, why we're
Hmm.
behaving or reacting in a certain way, it's very, very hard. And I love the positive side of ego that gives you engine to thrive in your work and in your things. But I think that for my side, the most difficult thing in relationships, and I'm not just speaking about love relationship, but also like parents, like for example,
Hmm.
I deal a lot with my parents, is this ego that comes from this wounded inner child that has never been healed. And so many times people don't want to heal the inner child. They don't even consider that their entire life is running by, this inner child, angry and see me, consider me, I'm the best one, I'm the alpha man. It's really not about who's the alpha or who's not the alpha, because in the end I think that when you know what you want and when you love somebody, you can
Hmm.
always find a way, in my opinion, um to find a balance, your own
Right.
balance. And as you said, like, I know what I want, I know what I cannot do, and I will figure it out. But when you are with somebody who is in denial of their inner child,
Right.
and so they have no idea what the ego really means, because some people, they think that ego is just oh, I'm the best one, I'm productive, I'm going to be the best one. But really what ego means is, okay, my ego comes from my wounded inner child. He wasn't loved enough, and now he wants to be loved, and now he wants to be seen. And as a woman, when I deal with a man who is not aware of their inner child, it becomes very hard, because they come to me and they come to me like, see me, love me, consider me, mommy, please, and what they are not able to do is to also to consider that I am in my own process of healing
Hmm.
my inner child. And so I
Hmm.
have my moments of see me, love me,
Right.
consider me, please, I'm here. Uh, so I guess that's the most difficult thing for me, because when I talk with most, not all, but most of the men I dated or I date, it's just that they don't consider even no, I'm fine. I have no problems. I'm
Mhm.
totally okay. I take responsibility. I'm strong. That you were a little bit too weak. You were too sensitive. You were too
Right,
vulnerable. And oh, that's not what happened for real. There's a lot of gaslighting many times
right.
in conversations, and I'm just like, okay,
Yeah,
I cannot sustain this, you know.
right. It's really the clarity, right? Like, so, like, I don't think it's this ego and this proudness and, like, I don't want to be vulnerable and I'm strong and I'm the alpha. Like, I think I think the times I've communicated, like, my vulnerabilities and, like, opened up, a bit, then they feel safe to, like, let me lead. They feel safe. They feel that they can trust me because I've communicated that I trust them through vulnerability, through opening up. Yeah, of course, I think men don't want to open up majority of the time, but I think, now if we go back to, like, what you said on that post, I think if you flip the idea of, like, we have this idea that strong men, they don't open up, strong men, they don't cry, strong men, they're not vulnerable, they don't show weakness. But I think that is the strength, is showing weakness, being comfortable in your vulnerability, being comfortable, like, saying you're wrong, being comfortable saying, like, I don't know this, or, like, I'm so comfortable with people smarter than me,
Mhm.
women smarter than me. I have a very smart mom. I have very smart sisters, and there are things that I can learn from them. And I'm comfortable as a man not being the smartest in the room. And I think
Totally.
that is true strength.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
is true
That
strength. And I can also I want to have my sisters and my mom lean on me, that there are instances where I'm the smartest in the room. You know what I mean? And they can, but there's that healthy balance. But I will not, if I'm a man and I'm leading, I'm supposed to be leading, just like my dad does, then I also need to lead in that relationship with my sisters and with my mom. And leading means showing that first, showing that vulnerability first, not expecting them to show the vulnerability first because they're the woman. It's like, no, you're the leader. You show by example, right? So
Mhm.
show your vulnerability, as a man first. So then they feel, oh dang, I can trust him,
Yeah.
because he's comfortable and he's communicating to me through his vulnerability that he trusts me,
And how
you
do
know?
you, yeah, totally. Like they feel safe. They feel safe.
Right.
The
And I want to
vulnerability
touch on
creates
the
permission.
yeah. I love the whole thing, and I don't want to, like, go over it too much. But the whole post that we originally kind of connected from was, like, the weak man and the strong man. And I remember briefly seeing your frustration on, like, where are these strong men nowadays? Like, all
Mhm.
this stuff, and it's a thing. It's a conversation I've had with multiple people where I had this thought where it's like strong men want strong women, and they don't settle for, like, insecure women. Or they'll settle for, like, semi insecure women, but knowing that they're going through the process, they're going through, like, the recovery, they're going through the healing, and they see that, and it's like, oh yeah, this is great. But my whole thought on it is, like, strong men go after strong women, and strong women, they want stronger men. They want stronger men. And I believe that weak men prey on weaker women to make them feel stronger, and
Mm,
vice versa.
yes.
Weak women go after weaker men to make them feel stronger. I
Yeah.
sat down with a table of, like, I think it was like 13 people at a dinner one day. None of these people I knew. I only knew one person, which was the birthday girl. And I sat down and I was like, wow, like, I've never really sat down with a bunch of people that I don't know in a while. And I am very comfortable saying that I judge people a lot. And I'm like, hey, at least I'm, like, being accountable to it. Like, I am judgy, but I'm just like, we call it judgy, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe it is judgy. Then it is judgy, then fine.
Yeah, you
But
own the judgment.
right, but I'm like, I'm profiling. I'm trying to understand the profiles of each couple and each person,
Mhm.
right? So then there's a couple sitting next to me, and I noticed the woman and her boyfriend, and she has that like that energy, that alpha girl energy, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, like whatever, yeah, like cool. And then I hear her guy talk, and he's very, very passive. And I'm like, ah, that's why you two work out. Like, and that's cool. And that's totally fine. That's like, there's no wrong way to do it. There's no, I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's understanding that. And
A
what
compensation.
yeah. And what I'm seeing is like these women, sometimes these women are getting into these relationships and then they're getting out later and they're all saying the same thing. They're like, I want my guy to be an alpha. I want my guy to be like
Mhm.
I want my guy to lead. And it's like, well, you kind of went after the guy that doesn't lead because you wanted to lead, and now all of a sudden you don't want to lead. And then you're like, oh dang. So people go through these relationships and they're like, I'm trying to understand it where it's like the biological side, where it's like, is do is there a successful relationship, and I'm sure there is, where the woman is just the leader, she's just the alpha, and the man's just gonna like sit back and let it happen, and they're happy and they're everything. But I'm like, is it biologically created in us to for the man to be the leader? Is it biologically, is it
I believe
biological?
yeah, I believe that like that's from really an energetic. I work with energy. So
Hmm.
I really know a lot about energy. And I think that every single human being, but especially women, I mean, we have a different hormonal system than
Hmm.
yours. So we literally, like biologically, we work different from yours. And this includes sexuality and capacity to get into the orgasm, having orgasm,
Hmm.
capacity also, like physically, to hold feminine energy. So we have masculine
Hmm.
energy, which maybe you can refer to the alpha type,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
structure, the doing, the determination. And then we have the feminine energy on the other side, which is emotions, which is the flow, which is the chaos, which is, all of what is like be versus doing. And basically, men and women both, we need a balance. But
Hmm.
clearly, for natural and biological structure, we do function differently as women. We have a cycle every month. We do have hormones that works differently. And so I do know that many women are getting into the alpha type, so in the fighter, and
Hmm.
because we had to at one point, like we had to go there. It's like the mom of your ex-girlfriend, she had
Hmm.
to.
Yeah, it
Why?
was
Yeah,
necessary.
it was necessarily, so it was like living in survival. And so I know that deep down, the structure that we have, and of course we live in a society when things change, and so we adapt, but the structure of a woman is to be in balance between masculine and feminine, is not to be too much into the inner feminine and not either to be too much into the alpha. And to find this balance in
Hmm.
relationships, we need the men to be able to be in the masculine so
Hmm.
we can stay in the feminine. Because
Hmm.
there is no way we can tap into the feminine energy if our partner is not able to hold the masculine.
I totally agree. I have this thought where I've understood it in this way, where the woman allows the man to be masculine. The man can be masculine all he wants. He can have that alpha type mentality all he wants, masculine all he wants. But if the woman he's with doesn't want that, it won't work. He's fighting now. He doesn't have a teammate, he has a competitor. He's fighting. The women allow their man to be in that masculine energy. And if that man wants to be in his masculine energy, and that woman wants that man to be in his masculine energy, it's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. Same thing on the flip side. If a woman wants to be in her feminine energy and the man wants her to be in her feminine energy also, it's a beautiful thing. But if she wants to be in her feminine energy and the guy wants her to be more masculine or alpha or make the decisions, then she's gonna get frustrated because she's like, I want to be in my feminine energy. I want to feel taken care of. I want to feel safe. I want to feel like I can look up to you and you can lead me and I can follow you. You know, so it's an allowance because I saw it a lot with even just in even friends of mine. I had this one friend that I tell like I tell as an example. I was crossing the street one day and she was on her phone and she was just like looking up something, looking up like where to go or what, or looking up a restaurant or something. And I look across the street and it's safe. And I say, hey, so it's like, come on, let's cross. Like it's time to cross. Let's cross. And then she stops and just looks there and makes she checks my work. She checks my work. So then she just like, and I was like, and she liked me at the time, but I just wasn't interested. Um, and she checks my work, and I was like, that's it. That's why I don't feel attracted to her because she won't let a man be a man. She has to recheck his work. She can't just not necessarily blindly follow his lead, but trust him, and
Mhm.
trust him to cross
Yeah.
the street and everything's going to be safe. That's the whole point of like letting a man be a man. That's the whole point of you feeling safe is that like you will follow me and that we'll get through this together and you can trust me and just crossing the street. But it was like you have to check my work now and I'm like, well, like do you want to lead? Like you can lead. I don't care. Like we don't have to
I
do two
got it.
jobs at one time. You know what I mean? Like let
Yes,
me do the
yes.
job and I'll like but don't check my work on my job because if then we're both doing the job. You know, if you want to lead, then go ahead, and then you're gonna complain later like I don't feel safe with you, and I don't feel led, and I want to feel led, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
There are a lot of controlling mechanisms that are internalized too. Like they become like they all of what we are basically it's the result of centuries of what happened before between men and
mhm,
women. And so we're kind of paying the price. And I think it's also important to find this kind of balance, which is going to be of course individual for every single human being because we're all different. We have different past and backstories. It's also yes, to find those dynamics of energy, masculine and feminine. And for women, because of what we've been through, we need also to see men in their feminine sometimes. Like
mhm,
we also need men to understand that we are in a different position from them and we need to fight a lot of wounds that comes from sexism,
mhm,
and we need to come back a little bit to the feminine. And to do that we also need to regulate our masculine but still being in our masculine, having boundaries, believing in our careers,
mhm,
believing in ourselves. And we need this kind of support. And so on the other side, if we see men a little bit more in this empathy, in their empathy,
right,
in their vulnerability, in their also capacity of sometimes in the right time leaving us to, I don't want to say leading, but really see them, like see
mhm,
them with their tears, with their insecurities, like we all have them. I think
mhm,
that would make the job easier for both. Do you know what I mean?
right.
Um,
I think when I think about like I it's the whole accountability aspect of it, right? If men want to be the alpha, the leader, whatever, to whom much is like requested, or to whom much is given, much is requested. So it's the idea of like, it's kind of our fault, fellas. Like, it's kind of our fault. Like, yes, there was like this whole like, it feels like we're competing, in the dating scene, you know, male and female, where we're competing in this dating scene. It's like, no, it's not that. Like, we just got to have the conversation. Like, where do women feel safe with us, right? So it's being comfortable, and I think it's the conversations, right? I think it's the conversations that male and females have together, but then also male to male, where it's like, no, guy, like, actually, like, vulnerability is strength. Like being vulnerable is strength. Being able to open up is strength. It's not how we thought it was, of locking down our feelings and you know, being macho about it. It's like, bro, like, no, it ain't it. Like, it's not it. Like, we have to, because whenever they feel that we can be weak, you know what I mean, that ultimately shows more strength.
Mhm.
I was talking to this one friend of mine, and she made the comment where it's the opposite of what we think. It's the yin and yang. It's the opposite of what we think. She made this one comment where she was just like, maybe we don't work out because I'm just too like strong minded or strong, like, and I'm like, no, it actually isn't that. Like, strength is not because you're strong minded and you have a quick tongue. Strength is whenever you're able to hold your tongue and hear out another person. It has nothing to do with you trying to interject and you trying to, like, you know, talk over me because like you're a strong woman. No one told you you weren't a strong woman, you know. But actually, in reality, strength is whenever you're able to withhold your opinion and still listen, because now you have the control. Now that person feels heard because you withheld your opinion. Now they feel heard. Now you have, not in a negative way, but you have the leverage
Mhm.
because you have that. Now they feel heard. Now there's control. You know what I mean? They feel heard. Now you're gonna feel heard. Now there's an equal balance of it. But I think men and also women think that the loudest in the room is the strongest in the room, and the one that can get majority of their words and opinions across in a conversation, that's the strongest person. When
Yeah,
in
and that's so wrong. That's
it's
absolutely
not
so
like
wrong.
that. It's
I
not
know
like that.
I know you have a good theory around sex that you were
Mhm.
about to share with me. I'm curious to,
It's an interesting thing.
because all
I
of those
didn't.
dynamics, we really bring all of those
Oh
things
yeah.
under the sheets, clearly.
The
'Cause it can really become a fight even there.
Oh yeah, it goes to the self control, right? It goes to the self control. I've learned a lot where it's not acting on emotions, not talking in emotions. I understood growing up that I had a temper problem. That was from I learned that a lot just from my father, and just a short fuse, really. And just like abusive words like that I started like communicating to women, and I was like, then I would like snap out of it, out of my emotions, and a minute 2 minutes later I'm just like, this is wrong. Like, I probably shouldn't have said that, you know what I mean? And I always ended up apologizing. And it was with that girl that I dated for like 7 years, and I felt bad. Like, within a minute or two I was like, what the heck? Like, this is not, I shouldn't be doing this. So I was trying to figure out how to regulate that and like contain it. So then I started, one of my outlets was yoga and running. I would calm myself down. I'd calm myself down, and everything started to become like water off a duck's back. Where like it was just like some client or something can frustrate me, and then I would take it out on her. And at that time, I was like, I can't do this. How do I like calm myself down? So I started calming myself with like yoga and
I love you speaking
running.
about that. I love you speaking about that because like I do emotional release work. Like I
Mhm.
work with energy, I work with emotions, I work with trauma. And there's nothing that I love the most to work on is anger. And
Mhm.
I think that this is so related with the topic because of this, shaming culture and mentality of like, oh, I'm louder, I shouldn't be. I'm angry, I shouldn't be. She's a woman, I shouldn't answer her that way, which is true, clearly. But the thing is, that's exactly what I think a couple, it's a real couple, But I see you and I maybe or you see me in my overreaction, in my emotional overreaction, and we invite each other to express safely emotions and without judging each other, without taking things personally. Because again, when we have a wounded inner child that lives within us, it's not your adult is angry or my adult is angry. It's my inner child that feels triggered by something. Can be a word, it can be an action, can be a behavior that reminds us of something from past childhood example. So, and we go into this like, oh, what the fuck are you saying?
Mhm.
And in that moment, we need to have the capacity of loving the other person and be in the work and doing actually the work. You can do yoga, you can run. I always suggest people to go and release emotions instead of contain them, because if we don't release them in a safe space, like with rage, I literally scream, I punch the pillow,
Mhm.
I I have a demon inside if I go into rage. All of
Mhm.
women have that, and all of men have that too. And you know why? Because when a man raise up with the culture, you have to be the macho man, you have to be
Mhm.
strong, and you are not allowed to cry as a baby boy, or to express yourself as a baby boy. And you feel that you have to stay into this, archetype of the strong man, even when you are a little boy. That's
Mhm.
why little boys become angry men. And there's nothing wrong on being angry. It's just that then you realize, okay, I'm angry. Uh, you are angry too for other reasons. Let's work on our emotions. Let's connect from a place of truth. And in this case, I think the vulnerability is beautiful, it can be magical, can really make two people feel closer because we
Right.
understand each other, right? And
It's the yeah, it's I've understood in business and also just in personal life is like, don't make a decision out of emotion. Don't talk out of emotion. Like, talk in logic, make decisions in logic. And I was very emotional at that time. I was so angry, and I like taught myself how to like tame it down, like, just by running and yoga. But then the next level of that, where controlling my emotions, what became controlling sexual emotions, right? Because you have these like mental emotions of like anger, like frustration or whatever, but then you also have like also mental sexual emotions. But the whole thing with that was one of my thought processes with that was like, if I'm able to control my sexual emotions through celibacy, then I control everything. I'm not controlled by my desires or like hormones. I control everything. I have the brain to control all my emotions, and my emotions follow me. I they don't dictate me. So then I like explored a lot of like just like celibacy, and being able to control that. And with that, I was also exploring leading relationships, leading just meeting people in general, and not letting sex be the lead,
Mhm.
because I think everyone leads with sex, right? Majority. I'm not going to say like everyone, but I think majority of the time we're male and female. Maybe I could speak for males, some females, because I like talk with some of them, and they're like, oh, they're the first thing they bring up is their attraction, right, to the man and like whatever. But even as speaking as a male, it's like we go out on these dates and we're like, well, how can we get her in bed? How can we get her in bed? How is she gonna be in bed? How is she gonna be in bed? And when you get to a point and you're just like, man, like this is not fulfilling at all. Like psychologically, I want to like be stimulated by her mind and not just, oh yeah, like this was sex. And it becomes like pointless. It becomes just like boring to where it's like I started thinking, I was like, man, well, if I'm celibate, then I'm able to control my emotions. And then on top of that, I actually have to have the conversations with these women, and I actually have to ask them deep things, deep, deep mind stimulating things. And in that, they appreciated that a lot. And I learned a lot from just not, meeting with someone and being like, oh, well, like, what, like, let's get, tipsy and then like figure something out. It wasn't that. It was like, that was sex was never going to be the end goal. So when I removed that from the end goal, I learned, like, I opened this another level of like thinking and just like conversation with women. And then, females on the other hand, when I've told girlfriends of mine this, and I tell them, hey, like try it, then they're like, man, this is it's hard. It's actually hard. Like, it's very hard not to be sexually attracted to someone and want something from them. But whenever you're able to control it with your emotions, you start to like you start to realize, am I just like liking this person because I want to have sex with them, or am I liking this person because I'm like actually like stimulated by their mind?
Mhm.
And then whenever you can lead with like mind stimulation, then the sex will follow. The sex will always follow.
Yeah. Wow. I think that sex can really be a very it's a very common way to avoid emotions.
Yep.
And so it becomes like alcohol or smoking or any kind of other addiction where people go when they don't want to really feel. And that's why sex in this society is so fucked up, because so many people, they
Hmm.
have sex but they don't really, they're not having a connection, they're not having a,
Hmm.
they're just kind of like verting out all of the internal chaos and trying to find a
Right.
quick fix. And also this creates a lot of addiction to the body, because the nervous system is involved with sex and emotions are involved, so it's you get into the adrenaline circle of I'm going to get a coffee tomorrow morning for
Hmm.
breakfast, I'm going to finish to work, so I'm going to have a drink, I am so frustrated, and I'm going to have sex. It's
Hmm.
the same thing. I've been studying tantra in the last 3 years, and I think it's been quite challenging, because I've decided for a long time not to have sex and to heal my sexual trauma, because we all bring, especially women, in the womb space, there is a lot
Hmm.
of stuck emotions that can eventually lead that sexual desire many times. And so the trauma shows up in the sexual attraction. So let's say that my mom, she's a narcissist, and I get sexual horny and attracted by all the narcissists that I
Hmm.
bumped into. And then I have this incredible sexual chemistry, but then he's an asshole, he wants to control me, he abused me, and all of those
Hmm.
things. So in the sexuality really shows up the trauma and the inner child, the things and stuff. And so I love that you do control your emotions, or like I love to use the term like heal the emotions, like or like releasing the emotions, or like transforming, like this podcast is all about transformation, and now we can literally transform our body and mind, and that's so true. I'd like to ask you something before closing this podcast, like two questions that I really love.
Yeah.
I ask those questions to every single guest because um yeah, there is something that I call the no turning back point. Because in every single one process of change in life, and many times our change are not really predictable, they just happen. Um, Something happens, or we meet somebody, but something happens, and so since then we cannot turn back anymore. Like we have changed, something changed inside. Sometimes it's something positive, sometimes it's something negative. In my personal experience, it's been most of the time a negative point of crisis that changed me for good. And I would like to know, what's your no turning back point?
Right. I think I from just understanding and hearing it for the first time, the no turning back point. It personally, I think because I grew up a lot in just business, right? So teenage, like just from leaving like sports as like a high schooler to like going into like then business stuff, like making money and trying to like hustle in that way. My no turning back point was a positive one. I think I do have a negative one also, but my no turning back point, the one I would consider that I would consider that my purpose day also. It was a no turning back point. I was in college. I hated it. I was doing photo and video on the side. This was back in 2012, 2012. Yeah, 2012. Instagram had just started, I think, in like 2011, 2010 times. So photo and video, at that time we were broke artists. That's what we'd be considered to be growing up, is broke artists. And uh, I was hated college, and I knew that if I left college, I would have to like pretty much like take up all my responsibilities from my parents, like my bills. Like I was paying like my phone and like all, but I was have to like I was cut off. If I wasn't in school, I was cut off. And so my turning back point, I got called for this shoot in Houston, to do video for Lamborghini Houston. And I remember us going like 170 miles on the toll roads. I had no seatbelt, because it's hard to film in a Lamborghini like turned, because it's like a cockpit. So I had no seatbelt in a convertible, and I think they were pushing like 160 or so, or more or less. And I remember like finishing that day, and I kissed the ground, and I said I could have died today, but I would have been happy. And after that day, that was my no turning back point, where I was like, I'm done with college. I'm done like doing this. This is what I'm gonna do every dang day of my life. There was no turning back then. And I consider that my purpose day. There's a quote that says the two most important days of your life were the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. And I believe that was the day I found out why I was born, to do what I'm doing today, still full time. And I just went completely, I ran after my career and my purpose, and it's landed me in a different city.
And thank God you didn't die.
And thank God I did it, but I would have been happy. And that's the thing, is like no
Yeah.
one really talks about what makes anyone happy anymore. So I was like, if this makes me happy, if this makes me smile, I need to be doing this every day. So that was my
Wow.
no turning back point, and like
I would
going
like to
straight at
know
it.
your human design. Do you know about your human design?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
What is?
I will check on that. I will ask you, and I will talk to you about your human design, because like generator, like it's a little complicated to explain, but
Hmm.
in a few words, it's basically our energetic map based
Hmm.
on the date, the place, and the time of birth. It's a compilation of different ancient and modern science, based on which we are basically unique beings, because the energy that moves through the body is totally different for every single human being. And there
Hmm.
are energetic centers, that some of them corresponds to chakras, some are different, like, but basically I'm a generator, like that's my human design. I generate energy, and I believe you are a generator as well, because all of the strategy of generator, like all of the authority of the generator, is the life force energy. And so we are meant to do what we like, if we want to generate energy. So we are here to raise the energy of the world up as much as we do what we like. If we don't do what we like, we get into frustration. And frustration means that as generator, we do produce energy. Like we are the only
Hmm.
one of all of the five designs that we generate energy. But we have to be satisfied. We have
Right.
to do what we love. That's all of the philosophy of generators. So I would love to know, what kind of human design are you? And I will ask you, I will look at your charts. And this
Yeah.
last question, so that's how I end up the podcast. I love this question, because I work with people on their becoming. I help people to become, and that's one of my favorite words. And so I'm gonna ask you, who Adrian is becoming.
I would say I take a lot of stuff from different people. I take a lot of stuff from friends, I remove a lot of stuff that I was raised with. But who I'm becoming, I would say I'm a modern day version of my father. I'm a caring person like my best friend. And I want to be admired by my future partner and kids. I think that far down, where the person I'm becoming, I want them to be proud. I want them to have an example. So these decisions and these choices today is really for them, right? I want to become the dad that my daughter looks up to, and I also want to become the son that my son wants to become as well, like a better version of me. Um,
This is
but
beautiful.
yeah, I would say
This is
that
beautiful.
I take stuff from people. I take stuff from people. I take from my mentors, the way they thought, my best friends, the way they thought, the way my father thinks, the way my mother thinks, the way my sisters thinks. I take all those things and I make my own little spices, ingredients of becoming.
This is beautiful. And it sounds that you are a 6 line in human design. Like I would bet on that. A 6 line is the role model, like the person who throughout life, thanks for all of the experiences, and most of the experiences are from 20 to 30, they are going to become the role model. And by um authenticity and integrity, by being, basically like giving inspiration by being in their truth. And I mean, that really
I love
fits
it.
with you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Mhm.
I loved our conversation. And yeah, I hope to see you before or later in person.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we'll have more conversations that
Yeah.
we have to like explore and stimulate our minds and see each other's opinions on certain topics. Because I think that's what's best is what's going to push the world forward is male and female having healthy conversations and safe conversations on stuff that's on our mind and how can how can we be better for each other, because if we're not better for each other, then
Yes.
our lineage doesn't move forward, you
And we
know.
need to we need to create space for that. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because like people, they run all of the day and they like, I don't have time. I don't know. We do. We can create space. And so thank you for giving me your time today. Don't go away.
Thank
Stay
you for
with me.
having
I
me.
just closed up
Yeah.
the episode. Thank you for listening, everybody. Please, if you like this episode and if you like the Holistic Actress show, subscribe. Okay, rate me, leave me a star, share it, and thank you for listening. And I'll see you the next episode of the Holistic Actress show.